Look, the vast majority of American hunters think stepping into the European rifle game requires emptying your entire savings account on some overhyped luxury straight pull safe queen. And that stubborn myth is exactly why they keep getting robbed blind at the local gun counter while settling for sloppy domestic factory tolerances. But here is the brutal reality that the high-end German and Italian manufacturers are desperately trying to keep quiet in 2026. Overseas automated milling and hammer forging technology has officially hijacked the market, ripping those elite custom features like sub-MOA guarantees and lightning-fast 60-degree bolt throws right out of the $3,000 bracket and stuffing them straight into indestructible sub-$1,000 hunting rigs that I am about to expose right now in this top 8 breakdown. Kicking off this list at number 8 is the ATA Arms Turqua. Geographically, it rides the line between Europe and Asia, but this Turkish brute is absolutely flooding the European market right now. Honestly, when I first saw the spec sheet, I thought it was a typo. This is their first crack at a center-fire bolt-action rifle, and they came swinging for the fences with a solid steel monoblock receiver. Under the hood, you are looking at a free-floating chrome moly barrel that is button-rifled. But the real mechanic insight here is at the muzzle, where they machined a true 11-degree target crown. Why does that matter to you when you are out in the woods? Because that specific angle ensures the high-pressure gases disperse perfectly evenly, the exact millisecond the bullet exits the barrel, completely eliminating any microscopic turbulence that could knock your round off its intended flight path. That is exactly why they confidently stamp a sub-1 MOA guarantee on this rig right out of the factory. Working the action reveals a massive one-piece steel bolt with a 3-lug setup. That geometry gives you a blazing fast 60-degree bolt throw, leaving plenty of room so your hand is not smashing into your scope bell on quick follow-up shots. It slings popular medium game calibers downrange with zero hesitation. Dropping the hammer feels incredibly crisp for a budget gun, featuring a 2-stage adjustable trigger that snaps like an icicle on a freezing morning. Taking one home will only set you back around $750 to $850. Look, there is always a catch. The deal breaker on the Turqua is the sheer mass of the thing, tipping the scales at a hefty 7.8 pounds before you even add an optic or a loaded magazine. This is definitely not a lightweight mountain rifle. Dragging this chunky piece of steel up steep ridges all day will absolutely burn out your shoulders and make you regret your life choices. Plus, you might notice it takes just a little extra forward muscle to lock that bolt cam down tight on the final close. Moving on down the list to number 7, we have the Franchi Momentum and the Momentum Elite coming out of Italy. Built by the same folks who run under the Benelli and Beretta umbrella, this rig blends slick Italian styling with rugged backcountry durability. You can grab the base model for about $600, while the fully loaded Elite version sets you back around $1,200. It eats 308 for breakfast and asks for seconds, making it a highly capable tool for filling your freezer. Taking a look under the hood, the Franchi runs a massive 3-lug bolt with a short 60-degree throw. But here is the real mechanic insight. That bolt body is heavily spiral fluted. This is not just to make it look cool at the range. Those deep spiral cuts drastically reduce the friction surface area while giving dirt, ice, and unburned powder a channel to escape the action entirely, ensuring your bolt does not seize up when you are miles away from civilization in a freezing downpour. When it comes to pulling the trigger, the adjustable fire control group breaks clean like a frozen carrot right around 3 pounds. Sending heavy hunting loads downrange usually brings some serious punishment, but Franchi completely engineered that out of the equation. They built this rig with their proprietary twin shock absorber recoil pad, integrated right into the polymer stock. It actively soaks up 50% of the kinetic energy, turning what should be a brutal punch to the collarbone into a firm but manageable push against your shoulder. Now, let's talk about the deal breaker. The Italians definitely prioritized maximum traction when they molded the checkering on this polymer stock, and honestly, they went way overboard. While that extremely aggressive texture is great if you are wearing thick winter gloves covered in frozen mud, running this thing barehanded all afternoon at the range will absolutely chew up your palms like 80 grit sandpaper. Plus, that massive oversized bolt release lever protruding off the left side of the receiver is just begging to snag on your bino harness or backpack straps when you are hiking through dense brush. Stepping up the game to number 6, we are heading straight into the heart of German engineering with the Haenel Jäger 10. Built in the legendary gun-making hub of Sauer, this rifle shares the exact same bloodline and factory floors as the ultra-expensive Merkel rifles. You get that premium heritage without needing a second mortgage. With street prices hovering right around $1,100 to $1,200. Looking at the receiver, they ditched the standard setup and engineered a massive 6-lug bolt configuration arranged in 2 distinct rows. That beefy lockup gives you incredible surface area for high-pressure rounds while maintaining a lightning-fast 60-degree bolt throw. Working the action is insanely smooth, feeding rounds like 6.5 Creedmoor effortlessly, even when you are panic running the bolt on a fast-moving target. But the real mechanic insight on the Jäger 10 is the sophisticated fire control. Out of the box, it gives you a clean break at just under 3 pounds, but it features a true European set trigger. By manually pushing the trigger blade completely forward, you physically alter the sear engagement and lock into a secondary geometry that drops the pull weight down to a ridiculous 6 ounces. Touching that set trigger feels exactly like popping a delicate glass bubble. This lets you run a safe standard pull weight while moving through the brush. Then activate the hair trigger for absolute surgical precision on a 400-yard static shot. Honestly, I know the fanboys will hate this, but I would take this German trigger system over any expensive aftermarket drop-in unit currently on the market. Sound off down below in the comments if you have actually run a set trigger in the field and trust it. Now let's talk about the deal breaker, and it is a classic case of German over-engineering. The manufacturing tolerances on this rig are so incredibly tight that it becomes a massive liability in dirty environments. If you get even a tiny speck of mud or gritty sand inside that polymer magazine, the follower will absolutely bind up and refuse to feed your next round. It runs flawlessly when it is spotless, but gets extremely picky the second you introduce real backcountry grime into the equation. Moving right along to number 5, we are heading back to Italy with the Sabatti Rover Generation 2. This is a solid piece of hardware for the money, usually setting you back around $850 to $1,000, depending on if you get the Hunter or the Pathfinder model. Now, this rig is a serious workhorse, but wait until you see the absolute monster sitting at the number 1 spot later on. Taking a look under the hood, Sabatti did something incredibly smart to keep the overall weight down to a very manageable 6.8 pounds. The mechanic insight here is their use of a high-strength Ergel 55 aluminum receiver, but they engineered the 3-lug bolt to lock directly into a solid steel barrel extension. Why does that matter to you when you are out in the field? It means you get the featherlight carrying weight of an aerospace aluminum frame. while all the massive high-pressure stress from igniting a hot hunting load is safely contained entirely by hardened steel components. You get a gun that is incredibly strong without feeling like a heavy boat anchor strapped to your back. It feeds heavy-hitting calibers effortlessly, sending rounds downrange all day without a single hiccup. Dropping the hammer on this Italian rig is a dream, breaking cleanly at exactly 2.6 pounds and snapping like a brittle pane of glass. When it comes to the recoil, that modernized polymer stock on the Pathfinder model handles the shock waves efficiently, turning what could be an angry mule kick into a polite shove against your shoulder pad. But let's be real, no rifle is perfect. And the deal breaker on the Sabatti comes down to the two-position safety selector. While it mechanically does the job and keeps the weapon totally secure, flipping that safety off to the fire position produces a massive audible metallic clink. If you are sitting in a dead quiet hunting blind on a freezing morning and your target walks within 50 yards, that loud mechanical snap is practically a dinner bell that will send them running for the next zip code before you even get your finger on the trigger. Now we get serious with number 4 on the list, the CZ600 Alpha, straight out of the Czech Republic. This platform represents a massive departure from their classic Mauser-style actions, bringing entirely modernized materials to the table for right around $650 to $800. It slings rounds like the .270 Winchester with absolute authority, giving you incredible flat trajectories for medium game without breaking a sweat. Let's dive into the mechanic insight here, because CZ engineered a truly brilliant single-stage trigger system that you can adjust on the fly. Instead of having to completely disassemble your rifle and rip the action out of the stock just to tune your pull weight, you simply take a standard Allen key and dial it into one of 4 distinct click settings right there on the bench. Why does that matter? It means you can drop the pull weight down to an insanely light 1.4 pounds in seconds for precision target work, and then instantly dial it back up for a safe, heavier field weight before your hunt. Dropping the hammer on that lowest setting feels exactly like snapping a dry piece of spaghetti in half. When it comes to the kick, the straight-line ergonomics of that synthetic stock channel the kinetic energy straight back, turning a nasty shoulder punch into a dull, heavy thud. Combine that with a cold hammer-forged barrel treated in a black nitride finish, and you have a weather-resistant tack driver that simply will not quit when the skies open up and start pouring. But here is the deal breaker that drives plenty of old-school guys absolutely crazy: the safety mechanism. Instead of a standard thumb lever on the side, CZ decided to install a vertical crossbolt safety that pushes straight down through the tang of the grip. While it is completely silent, having to press down awkwardly with your thumb feels incredibly unnatural if you have spent your whole life running traditional hunting platforms. In a high-stress split-second scenario where muscle memory takes over, you might just find yourself fumbling around trying to figure out how to take the gun off safe. Entering the elite tier at number 3, we have the Sauer 100 Classic XT coming straight out of Germany. Grabbing one of these will lighten your wallet by about $700 to $900. It feeds on classic European and American cartridges without breaking a sweat, but it really shines when you are slinging heavy-hitting magnums downrange. Let's look at the engineering, because Sauer did something radically different with the action. Instead of having the 3-lug bolt lock directly into the receiver cuts like a standard American rifle, they use a specialized steel breech ring inserted between the receiver and the barrel. Why does that matter for you? Because that independent ring guarantees absolute perfect concentricity between the bolt face and the chamber, ensuring the bullet aligns perfectly with the bore every single time you rack the bolt. That is exactly how they squeeze guaranteed sub-1-inch groups out of a budget factory gun. Dropping the hammer on this German masterpiece is a religious experience. The single-stage trigger is adjustable down to 2.2 pounds, and it snaps like a crisp piece of chalk with absolutely zero creep. When you pull the trigger, the Ergomax stock design completely redirects the kinetic energy, so instead of a sharp jab, the recoil feels like a firm, steady shove from a heavy oak door. But here is the brutal deal breaker that will definitely frustrate the tinkering crowd. Because Sauer uses their highly specific Everest bedding block system with a pin and block mechanism to isolate the action, the aftermarket compatibility is basically non-existent. If you want to drop this action into an aluminum precision chassis or swap out the stock later on, you are completely out of luck unless you want to pay a custom gunsmith a small fortune. You are basically married to the factory setup. Closer to the crown at number 2, we have the Bergara B14 Hunter and Ridge models coming out of Spain. Grabbing one of these will set you back roughly $850 to $1,000. This Spanish powerhouse eats 6.5 Creedmoor for breakfast, delivering semi-custom performance at a mass production price point. Let's look under the hood, because Bergara completely dominates the competition with their proprietary barrel manufacturing process. Instead of just standard drilling and buttoning, they use a highly specialized honing technique on their 4140 chrome moly steel barrels. Why does that matter to you out in the field? Because that extra machining step polishes the internal bore to a mirror finish that rivals expensive hand-lapped match-grade barrels, drastically reducing copper fouling and giving you dead-center impacts on target shot after shot. Working the action feels incredibly fluid, thanks to the coned bolt nose, feeding rounds from the magazine into the chamber seamlessly. Dropping the hammer brakes with the sudden snap of a frozen celery stalk, completely surprising you every single time. When that heavy hunting load goes off, the recoil is absorbed deeply by the solid stock, hitting your shoulder like a dull thud from a heavy medicine ball. Plus, it shares the exact same footprint as the legendary Remington 700, giving you endless aftermarket options for chassis and triggers. But here is the deal breaker you need to seriously consider before taking this out to the woods. Unlike the modernized rifles we just talked about, the Bergara B14 still clings to a traditional 2-lug bolt design with a full 90-degree throw. That means when you are trying to cycle the action in a panic, that bolt handle swings way up high and gets dangerously close to the bottom of your optic. If you are wearing thick winter gloves or running a scope with a massive magnification bell, you run a huge risk of bashing your knuckles and completely ruining your follow-up shot. Finally, taking the throne at number 1, the undisputed king of the mountain, the Tikka T3x Light and Super Light from Finland. It gives you the massive aftermarket support and endless chassis options of the Bergara B14, but it packages it into a featherlight frame that makes hauling that heavy Arms Turqua look like absolute torture. Walking out of the shop with one of these will cost you roughly $750 to $900, depending on the exact configuration. This lightweight hunter handles fast cartridges like the 6.5 Creedmoor flawlessly, giving you insane flat trajectories for long-distance work. Let's break down the mechanics, because Tikka absolutely mastered the 2-lug bolt design. Instead of the standard 90-degree lift, they engineered a 75-degree bolt throw. Why does that matter to your hunt? Because that specific angle offers the perfect mechanical compromise, giving you enough raw camming power to effortlessly extract a stuck brass casing while still keeping your hand completely clear of the ocular bell on your optic. Looking at the accuracy potential, it is almost unfair to the competition. The factory produces these on the exact same cold hammer forging machines used for premium Sako rifles. That shared bloodline guarantees ridiculous internal bore consistency, which is exactly why this platform routinely shoots half-minute of angle groups right out of the box with tuned hand loads. Dropping the hammer on this Finnish legend feels like snapping a frozen twig under a heavy combat boot. Because the Superlight uses a fluted barrel and a rigid polymer stock to shed weight, touching off a hot hunting load definitely lets you know it is there, punching back against your shoulder like a heavyweight boxer in the late rounds. Mount a serious piece of traditional high-end glass on this, and I mean real optical clarity, not that thermal or infrared digital garbage, and you get a rifle that simply cannot be beaten. Look, at the end of the day, the 2026 hunting market has completely shifted. You no longer have to choose between a sloppy, mass-produced budget rifle and a $3,000 safe queen that you are too terrified to scratch out in the brush. The European engineering we just broke down proves that you can get cold hammer forged accuracy and lightning-fast actions for under $1,000. So stop letting the gun counter commandos pressure you into emptying your wallet on overhyped luxury rigs. Take that extra cash, invest it in a rock-solid traditional glass optic, stack up on quality hunting loads, and spend your time actually learning how to read the wind and run your bolt under stress.